A long time ago, in a kingdom that would now fall in the southern part of India, in the state of Kerala, a sacred ritual was taking place. Presiding over the ritual was the king himself. A sacred fire had been lit, and chants of prayers filled the air as the king sat, presiding over a ceremony that would extend his rule throughout the world. The name of this king was Bali. His people called him Mahabali, the great Bali. Now, Mahabali's greatness came just not from the power that he had. Yes, he was the most powerful king at that time, and his rule extended from the earth to the heavens. But beyond the power, his greatness came from the goodness of his being, for Mahabali was a very good person, a good king. It came from the love of his people. It came from the fact that in his kingdom, everyone lived in perfect harmony. Not a lie was uttered in his kingdom, and everyone had enough and more for themselves. Such was the greatness of the king Mahabali. So as he sat there that day in front of the sacred fire, he had every reason to believe that he was invincible, that no one could defeat him, that he had the world at his feet and he would rule it from then on. It was then that Mahabali saw this young priest approaching him. He was really a boy, for he was just this tall. The priest reached him and bowed in front of him. Mahabali raised his hand for the chants to die down into a small whisper. The priest introduced himself as Vamana, and he begged and pleaded the king for some alms. Something for this poor priest, he said. Mahabali was at the peak of his powers, and his mood was that of magnanimity. So he said, "You couldn't have chosen a better place or a better time to ask alms of me, Vamana. Ask of me anything and you shall receive it." Vamana, with folded hands, stood there. But just as Mahabali said those words, an unnamed fear gripped him. It was as if something had gone terribly wrong. He saw a sense of alarm in the eyes of his guru Shukracharya, who seemed to forbid him to give anything to this poor priest. But such thoughts of fear had no place in the heart of the great King Mahabali, and his pride would not let him allow this young priest to go away from his court without having received what he had come to ask. So Mahabali said again, "Ask." Vamana, with folded hands, said just this much. "I ask of you only this, great king, land that I can measure in 3 steps of mine." 3 steps? And I thought, 3 steps. Vamana, we have more land than you can possibly measure in your whole lifetime. Ask for more. Vamana persisted with his demand. He said, "I ask only this, great king, land that I can measure in 3 strides." "So be it," said Mahabali. "That's what you want. How can I stop you? You shall have it. Thank you for coming this far. Now let me get back to my prayers." But Vamana, having come this far, wanted to take it a step further, and he insisted, "I wish to measure those 3 steps now." This annoyed Mahabali. 3 steps now. I mean, here. Whatever, yep. Just go ahead and measure those 3 steps and get going. I have more pressing things to return to. Thank you. Poor Mahabali. Little did he realize that at allowing Vamana those 3 steps, he had forfeited his entire kingdom. For the person who stood in front of him was no mere mortal. He was no simple priest, this Vamana. He was Lord Vishnu himself, incarnated as Vamana to put an end to Mahabali's growing ambitions to take over the world. Yes, Mahabali was a good king. He was a great king. He was a great person. But he also belonged to the clan of the Asuras or the demons. And as his powers grew, the shadow of an Asura rule, the balance of power had tilted in favor of the Asuras. And Lord Vishnu, on the request of all the other gods, had to intervene to put an end to this. That was why he was here. Lord Vishnu, dressed as Vamana. Mahabali did not know this, and he had granted him 3 steps. Now, to his utter dismay, Mahabali watched as Vamana began to grow in size. At first he grew as tall as to look Mahabali in the eye. But there was no stopping his growth. He began to grow further, taller than the tallest tree, taller than the forts of the palace, so tall as to touch the sky. And Mahabali had to strain his neck to even catch a glimpse of Vamana's face now. And now for the steps. With the first step, Vamana covered all the earth and the lands. With the second step, he covered the skies, the universes, the galaxies. With nowhere to place his third step, Vamana looked down on Mahabali and told him, "Where do I keep my third step now, King?" Mahabali, the great Mahabali, his head hung in shame, muttered to himself, my pride, that was what has caused this. I should have known better." And he addressed Vamana now. He said, "O great Vishnu, I know who you are. Place your foot on this unworthy head of mine." And he knelt before Vamana with his head hung low. Vamana placed his foot on Mahabali's head, and in doing so told him, "This is the end of your rule here on earth and in heavens. I am sending you to Padalam." Mahabali, his hands folded, his head bent in shame, addressed Lord Vishnu and said, "I am your devotee, Lord Vishnu, and I am okay to go wherever you send me. I have no qualms with losing all this empire, this greatness. I have no qualms in losing any of it. But if you know the heart of a devotee, you know well that my heart pains from the fact that I have to leave my people and go. These people whom I so loved, I cannot bear to part from them, Lord Vishnu." Vamana now took pity on Mahabali and told him, "You are a great king, Mahabali, and I grant you just this one permission, to come back and visit your kingdom, to be in the midst of your people once every year." "That's more than I could have asked for," said Mahabali. And as Vamana pressed his head down further, Mahabali vanished, faded away into the earth, into his new land of Padalam. Thus came an end to the greatest kingdom that ever was. It was a kingdom in which no one even uttered a lie. It was a kingdom in which everyone lived in perfect harmony, in happiness. That kingdom had come to an end. Their king was gone, but his people remembered him. And every year in the month of Chingam, people waited with great anticipation for their king to return. Generation after generation, across the length and breadth of Kerala, across various communities of people, they all came together as one. They decorated their houses. They laid out beautiful pookalams, floral patterns on the floor. They had huge feasts, sadhyas, on Thiruvonam day. They wore new clothes. They sang and they danced in joy, all in honor of their king, in the joy of his returning to them. That is the festival of Onam. And through it, the legend of King Mahabali lives on to this day.